and Director of Aviation Security of the White House National Security Council. Puthoff, PhD, who served as the senior scientist for multiple U.S. government UAP programs. Former U.S. Navy fighter pilots, Commander David Fravor and Lieutenant Ryan Graves. And last but not least, former U.S. Air Force Security Forces, Jeffrey Nuccetelli. Moderating here, Dan, I just wanted to start before we get into the meat of this. I have so many questions here for you guys, but you spent, I think you said, you were talking before this, about 4 years working on this movie to have this documentary out, not just here, in the world, and have it screening here on the big screen, I guess, like getting a whole audience here to see this. What does it mean to you, and how do you feel right now getting, this movie out in the world?
It's an amazing feeling. First off, this is my favorite New York City movie theater. It's amazing to be here. Thank you to all of you for coming out to see it in the theater and choosing to do that instead of watching it at home. That's awesome. I'm a long-time movie theater guy. My first job was ripping tickets at my local movie theater. Then we just figured out it's his local movie theater now. He lives in the town I grew up in. The movie theater experience is really important to me, and I think this is a movie to see with people next to you, big groups, and make it, a community experience. So thank you for doing that. This is the first night anyone is seeing it in theaters after 4 years. We played in 2 theaters at South by Southwest Film Festival in March for our festival premiere, but this is the real thing.
It's great. You mentioned like the conversation is going to start. Obviously, I want to read you a quote here from Variety. It said, this was one of the quotes, "It's not hyperbole to say the age of disclosure and the conversations it creates could change the world." Not every day you get a movie that can possibly change the world, but I think that's true, as you guys probably have seen here just watching it. I guess, what do you hope happens as a result of this film in the short term, and how as people start to see it here over the next several weeks and months?
Yeah, so my hope is that the public becomes aware of the reality of the situation and all this information that has been kept from us that impacts us all, and leaves the theater, or if you watch it at home, leave your house and tell your friends and family to watch it, and start driving forward the national conversation that needs to happen about this, and then that will become a global conversation. I think there's no more interesting conversation to have this Thanksgiving around the dinner table than this. If they haven't seen this movie, make them watch it. Give them a test. It is definitely, as you can see, the most bipartisan issue of our time. So you can, assume there's not going to be political arguments around it either. It's an issue that everybody cares about. So hopefully Variety's right. Hopefully it doesn't change.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. Jay, speaking of conversations, Jay, I feel like obviously, well, first, thank you for being here, I would say, and we want to give another round of applause for Jay. What do you, I guess just broadly, what do you hope happens next now that this is out, and what do you want, people to take away from this movie?
Yeah. So first, I truly appreciate the opportunity to take part in this historic documentary. I really think this is the most important documentary ever made, and that we're at a historic moment for history and humanity. This is monumental. So, and with that, I want you to think about, the risks that we all took, 34 of us together, arm to arm, safety in numbers, but also the risks for America, for the world, what's at stake, what you just observed, the story that we told. What you saw was really like a very well put together, unclassified briefing on this topic, on NHI, on the hidden 80-year cover-up of what's been hidden from you. Just flip that and think about the things that I still know on the classified side. That conversation, and I really think at the end of the day, Dan deserves to win an Oscar for this documentary. So like Dan said, talk to your friends, talk to your family, make this the conversation for Thanksgiving, but also use social media. Get out there, talk to your representative, make your representative do their job and make this the national conversation that it needs to be.
That's great. Brent, I just speaking of something there that Jay was saying, I mean, it's incredibly concerning for me, I guess, as a viewer, and I'm sure for everybody, to know that Congress, like elected officials who need to know this stuff, can't access this information. I guess what worries you most then about like the current situation?
Yeah, I mean, the whole idea of disclosure is frustrating. I think it's been frustrating for a lot of us for a while. So, the fact that it's actually out in theaters and people are going to see it, it feels like we're excelling here. 34 senior officials that we've all worked together at one point or the other. We've had backdoor conversations with, but being able to, the vision that Dan had to bring all that together. I think what we're really hoping for from the American public is to take it seriously. I mean, we've all made jokes. We've all grown up with great, extraterrestrial type movies in theaters. But this is a serious issue. This is an issue that I think we've been trying to get out in different venues in the government for a long time, and mainly because we're in competition regularly with China and Russia. This is a whole different type of competition that we've been in for 80 years. There's a lot of benefit that we can get from the technology. I think there needs to be some public-private partnerships where there's transparency in allowing us to do that. But we definitely have to use the American people and industry as a whole to really kind of get ahead of our foreign competitors. So have serious conversations. Talk to your representatives. It's time for us to grow up and get the conversation out the correct way.
That's great. Hal, as the chief scientist of several government UAP programs, you know better than anyone how this breakthrough technology could be used. And speaking there to what Brett was saying too, both good and bad. Obviously, I guess with regard to the energy source of UAP and how it could lead to clean energy, but also WMDs. You said in the film there, this part I really like, that you'd vote for making it a humanitarian issue, making it open and known to the world. I guess you still think humanity can handle that level of responsibility right now?
Well, as physicists, we like to dig into, seeing how these craft operate and the amount of energy that's involved in what they're doing. And so we recognize that if we harness that energy for our culture, there's practically nothing we couldn't accomplish. But that has to come forth and be available to our entire industrial complex. And so trying to get through the gate to get some of this information out, I consider absolutely top of the line. And when I look around and say, okay, well, many of us have dealt with this on a highly classified level, so how is it we're talking about disclosure? Well, actually, one of my favorite sort of insights along the way was that back when we were developing atomic bombs, we had the Manhattan Project that was classified, as highly classified as it could be, and yet we and the Russians kind of marched along at the same rate. On the other hand, when it came to electronics, we didn't classify electronics, and so we took off like a rocket and left Russia in our dust. And so that's why, even though there's some concerns about being too open, what might our adversaries get from us, nonetheless, I think that's what we need to increase the cooperation between various aerospace corporations and government entities and so on to actually move this forward. Then we could develop the ability to travel to the stars, to provide energy globally. And so I think that's the goal for us as physicists, and I think we could accomplish that.
That's great.
I gotta say also that Dan is absolutely brilliant in doing what he did, because I would never go out on a podcast by myself to talk about something of what I know, and many of the others here would fall into the same boat. So when he got the idea of saying, look, suppose we get all 34 of you to come out at once, arm in arm, then could you do it? And the answer was yes, I could do it. And that was just a brilliant insight there. Thank you.
Gotta get that. Awesome. Commander Fravor, you're the only fighter pilot I've ever met, so I'm just so honored to be here with you, and definitely as a result that you're the only fighter pilot I've ever met who has chased a UAP. So I guess, how did that encounter impact you, and why is disclosure important to national security?
Well, I can tell you that 21 years and a week ago, I'm pretty sure we weren't alone. I got to chase something, all four of us saw it, that were in the jets. We knew it was something that was far superior. The airplanes were brand new and there was nothing that it could do. And when it disappeared in front of us, we were like, I think it's important. I think there's technology out there, as Hal said, that can really help us out and move mankind along, as long as we use it for the right reasons. There's always evil out there that will try and use it for the wrong reasons. But I think it's about time, show us the ship, show us the body, tell us about Roswell, get it out. And that's what I thought the first report from Congress would say, and obviously it didn't. But I think we have the right people in the right place. Like Dan said, it's very bipartisan. I've talked to several Democrats and Republicans. They're both on the same side on this. So I think it's time, and I think this documentary is the one thing that the genie will never go back in the bottle, and it needs to come out. So thanks.
Yeah, that's awesome. Lieutenant Gray, you've been an advocate for UAP disclosure as well, and improving air safety, which I feel like a lot of us probably are also looking towards, because how perilous that seems. Can you speak to what your concerns are, at this point?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me actually perhaps turn it back on the crowd, maybe by a quick show of hands. Who here has had an anomalous experience? Well, stay notwithstanding, I'm always surprised when I speak to groups, whether it be pilots or others, about just how common these experiences are. Dan talked about going and talking with your families about this, watching it together over Thanksgiving. I think you'll be very surprised that, if you approach this topic seriously, that you might know people close to you that have had similar experiences and yet weren't comfortable sharing it yet. And when it comes to aviation safety, communication is the core of what keeps us safe up there. If we can't accurately identify and mitigate safety issues by communicating and sharing that information, then we're all leaving ourselves vulnerable. What Dan has done with this film, I think, is going to overall improve our national security, our aviation safety, and it's going to allow us as humans to talk to each other a little bit more, and I think that's fantastic. So thank you, Dan, and thank you.
And Jeff, down there, and you testified to Congress recently about the Vandenberg event. Can you speak to how that event impacted you?
Yeah, so that event and the series of events that happened in Vandenberg completely and profoundly changed my life and the lives of my friends. After you see or encounter something like that is not supposed to exist, you have to make a decision whether to ignore that or just kind of put that on the back burner in your brain, or you have to spend some time thinking about what it is that you experienced. And that's kind of what I've been doing for the last 22 years. It changed the way I think about everything. Religion, human origins, our place in the universe, how I behave in life, what I should be doing with my life. So it was profound. And that experience put me on this path, and now here we all are. And the other part of it is, for me, it was easier because I was not alone during any of these encounters. Me and all my friends in the Air Force, we were on duty together as these incursions played out. So it was a little bit easier for me to process because my friends and coworkers and people I loved and trusted were right there with me. So I could look at them and be like, am I crazy? And they're like, no, we're all seeing. So yeah, that's why this movie is so important. Our military members and regular civilians, just regular people, are encountering the impossible. And we need to start talking about that as a nation, as a community, and as a world community. Because we're beyond the point now whether these objects or these phenomena are real. The question is, what do we do about it? How do we face this new reality? So that's why this movement is important. That's why this movie is critical. I really can't believe this is all happening in my lifetime. So thank you to Dan and everyone that's involved and everyone that supported us and everybody out there who is going to take some time pay attention to this topic. And I hope that this movie ignites the curiosity of the public and people start to ask the government for the truth. Thank you for your attention.
I know we have to wrap up here in a minute, but I like this movie, obviously, like Jeff was saying there, I mean, like, it is such an important topic, but also because it's such a great movie, I think it's even gonna reach more people because I think it's so compelling and the way Dan directs his film is so engaging. We were talking before about the score. I absolutely love the music here. I know you could probably listen to it, I think, right now on like major platforms, Dan, is that right? Yes.
We put the score out today on every major music
But like
platform.
even that, I was like, oh, this is like a real. It's just like really sharp filmmaking overall. And I guess like, can you talk a little about the music and the choices to make it like the way it is, to have this incredible information that is so important to humanity, but also make an entertaining movie. I think that's a great. The way you mix that together is really great.
I really wanted to try to make this documentary as cinematic as possible, and this is an epic situation. I felt I wanted to make the music in line with that. Blair Moat did the original score, and it's not customary for docs to do this, but we did a full 30-person live orchestra in Budapest, actually, which was really incredible. 30-piece string orchestra, and I think you feel that in the film. Hopefully, he did a great job. Blair Moat's amazing.
It's great. I think the whole thing is great. Before we go here, any last words here? Obviously, like you said, like you could watch this movie, you could watch it again here in theaters, or watch it on Prime Video. I know you could for
Yeah,
rental,
so
but like, what are you hoping for? Like, any last words of what you're hoping for here that people are gonna take
Well, I just
away?
really, to echo what the guy said, I really hope that people take this out in the world, get all their friends and family to watch it, demand their representatives take this topic serious. People should start, sharing that, having their voice heard online, on social. You can just reach right out to our president, make it clear it's time for him to step to the podium and tell some of this to the public, tell the public that we're not alone in the universe, and that this race we're in with other nations is real. But aside from that, I just want to thank you guys, because this movie wouldn't have been possible without you and without all the other interview subjects who bravely spoke up. And I think you're going to inspire a lot of other people to speak up when this movie starts getting out there. So thank you.
Yeah, I think better. Let's give a round of applause for all these incredible guests here, and thank you, Agent.